Zacchaeus change. He had been called son of Abraham, which means, of course, that he had been included as part of God's children, just as Jesus was part of God's children. Just as we all are part of God's children, Zacchaeus knew now that he was one of us. I'll never forget them walking back to the house. Jesus' arm around Zacchaeus' shoulders, and Zacchaeus, because he was short, his arm around Jesus' waist. I ran ahead of them, took a shortcut, and quickly put together some food and drink. And when they walked in our house, they were laughing. Jesus had been telling these stories all the way home. Jesus was here in our home to stay. And you know what? Jesus did stay. Now, of course, we all know that Jesus did walk on down that road to Jerusalem, where he was put on trial, crucified, and buried. But he stayed with us. We all know that Jesus, after 3 days, was raised from the dead and lived among us, but he stayed with us. How do I know he stayed with us? Because our life was different. Jesus stayed with us in this joy that now came out of our living. Jesus stayed with us in generosity, which led Zacchaeus to give half of what we had to the poor, and 4 times back what he had taken from people. Jesus stayed with us in the form of compassion, where now we weren't demanding things from our servants, but we were going out and serving those in need. Jesus stayed with us through forgiveness, knowing that we had been forgiven, knowing we were welcome in Jesus, and Jesus was welcome here, allowing us to go and offer that to the world. Jesus stayed with us. We now had family and friends who were coming to us. We were going to them. Our life was totally different. I no longer had the fine clothing or the fine things in my home that I once had. I'd given them all back. That was okay, because Jesus had found his way into the chambers of my heart, into the rooms of my being, and said, I am here to stay. Thank you for opening yourself up to me. Friends, that same invitation, I want to stay with you today, can be for all of you. Looking back on it, I can now see that this sense of dissatisfaction and loneliness and isolation that Zacchaeus and I had experienced before was God's way of tilling the soil of a hardened heart. And only when Jesus came into our house to stay were the seeds of love and compassion and justice planted. Whether you are experiencing loneliness or isolation, Jesus wants to stay with you and give you comfort. If you are experiencing a hardness of the heart when it comes to complaining or wanting things to be just your way, Jesus wants to come and stay in your heart and offer you generosity and a joy in living. Jesus is here to stay. Will you let him? And if you do, let Jesus' joy of living flow out of your life and into the world. There's way more than enough to pass around. Jesus is here to stay. Hallelujah and amen.